Welcome back, everyone, to OpenLine. Talking with elder law attorney Tim Takacs. He's taking your calls. Maybe you're caring for an aging loved one. How do you pay for the costs associated with that? Or you yourself getting older. How do you pay for those costs? We encourage you to call in with whatever story you may have about your situation. And I always ask you, but I'm always astounded by the cost of nursing home care. I mean, how much would a nursing home cost per month?
Typically $7,000 to $9,000 a month, sometimes more depending upon where you are. In other words, what nursing home you pick. But it's probably anywhere from $90,000 to $100,000 a year.
Which is just astounding.
That is an astounding number.
And so what do people do? How do you deal with that?
Yeah. I mean, we have people, like we had a guy that came in, like the guy that I came in this afternoon, and we talked about that, says, we found a place like an assisted living, which was $3,000 a month, and he goes, how do people pay for that? And I'm going, well, that's a less expensive one. And I said, well, and if your dad got worse, you're probably looking at $8,000 a month. And then at that point, then he pays privately, or he's looking at the state Medicaid program to cover the cost.
Wouldn't most people be on the state Medicaid program?
At some point, yeah. If they were needing nursing home care. Now, obviously, there are people with wealth, and they're not looking for, and there are many nursing homes, and certainly in the Nashville metro area, that do not accept Medicaid. But if you get outside any of the metro areas, almost virtually any nursing home, is going to be private pay. I mean, it's going to be on Medicaid.
It's going to be on Medicaid.
They're going to participate in the Medicaid program.
And then how is it that nursing homes will look back and recoup costs based on maybe the assets that are left behind?
Yes.
This concerns a lot of people.
Yes, and that's not remember, that's not the nursing home that does that. That's Medicaid or TennCare.
TennCare that does that.
TennCare that does that.
Because they covered the cost.
They cover the cost.
Get the money
and they're
back.
going is, well, we paid out $150,000 for your mom, and she could keep the house because that's under the rules because even though we didn't leave mom any money to keep the house up, she can keep her house, but when she dies, then we're going to come in and file a claim against her estate, and get reimbursed for what we paid out.
And how aggressive are they in doing that?
They're becoming more aggressive on that.
So it is happening more.
It is happening more.
And this is essentially the taxpayers are being reimbursed.
It is. The taxpayers are being reimbursed, and the philosophy. I've always said that a state recovery is what it's called. The right for the state to recoup out of the person's deceased Medicaid recipient's estate. It's the only government benefit program that I know of where it's essentially a loan, where unlike a student loan is a loan, right? But we're talking about, okay, we're not just giving you this money, Mrs. Jones. We're paying for your nursing home care, and when you die, and you're on Medicaid and you own anything at your desk like your house, we have a right to recoup what we paid out.
A 5-year look back.
If you give it away.
So that is what some people would try and do, right?
Some people might say well, I don't want the nursing home or the Medicaid to get my house, so I'm going to transfer it to a trust. Now this has to be a particular type of trust, so don't.
Or they just say I'm going to transfer it to my kid, which is
worse.
another thing.
Yeah, which is different.
That concerns you.
Which concerns me, yes.
Right. But so they say I'm going to transfer it to a trust or my kid.
My kid, and then instead of
work.
letting the nursing home impoverish them, they just impoverish themselves. Because they give it to the most unreliable people on the planet, right?
They're kids.
I'm going to give it to my kids because the kids will hold it for me if I need it. Maybe. Until the kids can't give it to you because they've got a child going through school, they've got some other problem where they can't give it back to you.
I would still rather give it to the kid than have maybe.
Sure, that's why you use a trust. That's why you use a trust.
Right.
That's the right way to do it in our view. Maybe it costs more to do that, but if you're trying to do this the right way and making sure to really protect it, not just for you but for your heirs, that's the right way to do it.
Interesting.
Yeah.
And that look back is 5 years.
5 years if you give, Now there's some exceptions to that. If you give money to like you have a disabled child, we talked about that earlier, maybe we did. you can, if you're survived by a disabled child, there's no estate recovery. You can also give assets to a disabled child, no estate recovery.
And if you're, let's say your spouse goes into a nursing home and is there for a while, runs up a bill, then dies, they don't come and take the house away from the other spouse, right? Or do they?
Well,
and I'm saying it wrong. I know you don't like the way I say it. Do they come after the assets in that house?
Oh, I see. You mean talking about Medicaid, right?
Living there.
Okay, so Medicaid runs. So they run up a bill to Medicaid,
right?
Right. And then okay, so Harry dies and leaves Sally behind,
right?
And Sally's the surviving spouse, and then so under those circumstances, no estate recovery because Harry was survived by a spouse.
And his wife gets to stay there.
Yes.
She needs a place to live.
Right. And there's no estate recovery from her estate for what was paid for him.
Interesting. Okay.
Because the way it works is that they can only recover from the estate of the Medicaid recipient.
Okay.
And when Harry died, then of course, even if he owned, our view is, even if he owned the houses jointly with Sally, he dies and now his interest invests in Sally. Our view is the state can't recoup from Sally. Now, the right way to do that is Harry's in the nursing home and on Medicaid, he transfers the house to Sally. So that, because what if Sally dies first? Then Harry owns the house, right?
Right.
That's not a good plan.
Right, right.
And there's no 5-year look-back period for transfers from one spouse to another.
Okay.
All right. So that's a common. I think there's some misconception about that. Well, I can't give my house to my wife because, that's a 5-year look-back period. No, not spousal transfers.
Ah, see. Okay, that's all very interesting. All right, let's go to Taylor.
Yes.
Hello, Taylor.
Good evening, gentlemen.
Hello.
I've got a question for the wise man on your right there, left.
Yeah.
Ben.
Yes, sir.
I know these two ladies who have or had an aunt that died. She had no children of her own. Mm-hmm. This is up in East Tennessee. She had an older house, a small house, that I think is appraised at like $38,000 or $40,000.
Yeah.
The lady was in the nursing home for a while and passed away. And later in the mail came a bill for like $100 and some thousand. Mm-hmm. Of course, it was in the lady who had passed away's name.
Yeah.
So nothing was done, and they have rented that house for a small amount a month from come-and-go tenants. And it's been probably 8 or 10 years.
Yeah.
But they're tired of fooling with it. And so they would like to sell it for whatever it would bring. Mm-hmm. The state has done nothing other than send that initial bill.
Yeah.
They're just wondering, is there any way they can transfer the deed from the deceased aunt's name to theirs without having to go back to...
Yes. Now, here's the thing that you need, I think, with these I guess the nieces and nephews or whatever, the nieces, is what's most important for them is that they need to find somebody like me, in East Tennessee.
They need to find a lawyer. They need to find a good lawyer.
And it does that does work that I do. Okay. Because there are a lot of lawyers that think, oh well, they're going to have to just pay. They're going to have to sell the nurse. They're going to have to sell that house and then pay the Medicaid back. There are going to be lawyers that'll tell them that.
Yeah.
And that's not necessarily so.
Which is good for that family.
Yes, because the state can't just sit around and wait until people die, or until people are tired of having that house, and expect to get money. I mean, they are a creditor, and they have, as a creditor, they have rights, but they also have obligations, to bring a claim against the aunt's estate, the deceased aunt's estate, and collect. They can't just lay back and go, well, someday when the house is sold, the real estate lawyer will, they'll send us the money.
Right.
You know, that's not the way it works. That's not the way it should work.
No, I agree.
But there are some lawyers that think that's the way it does work.
There should be a statute of limitations, right?
Yes.
I mean, the state, after a while, doesn't get to ask for it anymore.
That's right.
And it sounds like the house has stayed in the name of the deceased?
Well, sure it is, but I mean, remember what we talked about, title vested.
Right.
So title invested probably, you know, immediately on death. You know, and they've just been renting at the property. They've probably been paying the property taxes, keeping up and whatever, because they're the owners. Even though that's not in the, there's no deed, you know, they are the owners by operation of law.
And so what is the statute of limitations on that? Is there a set time?
Well, it's recently become 1 year.
Wow, 1 year. I think he said it was 8 years ago.
I mean, 8 years, and see, that's why I'm saying is they really need to find somebody that knows this stuff. You know, not just any lawyer that, I mean, literally that does the type of work that I do. You know, in East Tennessee, and say, okay, we need to make sure that we do this the right way. You know, that this, because if they find the wrong lawyer might say, well, you owe, you know, you got to pay this money back. You know, or you're going to lose this case, or TennCare has a lien which they don't have.
Right.
You know, there's all that sort of stuff floating around. You know, that even lawyers believe.
Wow. So that could be $100,000. Well, yeah, that's a big mistake. He said it was a $100,000 bill.
Yeah.
The house was worth maybe less than that, but yeah, that's big, important sort of.
Yeah, and you think, well, that lawyer, I just talked to a lawyer. Well, doesn't one lawyer know the same as others? It's like, no.
No. All right, let's take one more call, then we'll go to break, then we'll take another call after that. So hold on if you're on the line. But this is Tony. Are you there?
Hello.
Hello, Tony. Go ahead.
Yes, I wanted to ask him a legal question. Mr. Takacs there. My auntie is living with my first cousin, but she has had some bruises and stuff on her, and I've talked to him about this before. He may not recall. We had the health department or medical people come over and talk to her, but she got so enraged and she ran them off and cussed them out. So my sister hired a lawyer to see if she could get her some medical help, some other situation where she can get out of there, which she refused to leave. Now I don't know what else I can do besides spending a lot of money on an attorney trying to get this thing resolved. But she don't want to leave the house because she gave my deceased auntie, her sister, a lot of money before she died to take care of the house. So she feels like the house is part hers. So I don't know what else I can do about this outside of just monitor the situation. Because I see any more bruises, see anything like that happen myself, it's not going to be good.
Yeah.
Well,
boy, this is terrible.
Yeah, because he's a mandatory. I mean, we're all kind of mandatory reporters here,
right?
You know, of physical abuse. Certainly that.
That's certainly what he's talking about.
Yeah. And you know, so it's an adult protective services thing. And maybe you know the aunt is, maybe she's a perpetrator perhaps, but maybe maybe not necessarily intentionally. Maybe she doesn't know what she's doing because she is cognitively impaired. But clearly, at the very least, he needs to talk to a lawyer, talk to legal services.
Right.
You know, talk to the public guardian's office. You know, call the Greater Nashville Regional Council if he's in the Nashville area. You know, and they'll tell them the story. You know, and they should be able to put him, hopefully put him into the right place.
Yeah, I hope you get that situation resolved. What are you saying? The greater?
It's the Area Agency on Aging and Disability.
Okay.
In the Nashville area, it's called the Greater Nashville Regional Council.
Okay.
You know, and what they do is, you know, you call them and say that this situation, they're supposed to be kind of like the one-stop call that they can give you guidance on. Okay, you need to go here, you need to go there. Maybe a public guardian needs to be brought in, you know, for the aunt.
Yeah.
You know, so, you know, and I understand his concern about, you know, paying attorney's fees and whatnot for a situation that is unknown really of what he needs to do, and that's what that's there for.
So that's what that's there for. Okay.
Yes, sir.
All right. Good. Thank you for letting us know that. And good luck with that situation. That's an important situation. All right, we're going to take a break. Patricia, stay on the line. We'll take a break. Be back right after this.